Well, here we are. Another Saturday. Welcome to today's Cichlids and Coffee live stream. Oh yeah, hope you're having your favorite beverage wherever you are in the world, whether it's morning or afternoon. So where are we today? Tell me where you are in the chat. Let's see who's the furthest away from Nashville, Tennessee. Whip, you're already giving me an audio video sound check. I like it. I appreciate it. Welcome to Wally's Freshwater Aquatics, Warren, Excali Kev, and of course Whip and Midi Mac and Brian. Hey Brian, good to see you there, buddy. Cat Sailors in the house. B Wood 22. Hello to you. Hey Paul, first on the chat. Good to see you, buddy. More folks are getting on. Let's give them a chance, and we'll go ahead and welcome them. So today's topic is going to be all about why some of us take on the, I guess, the joy and the strain of large, aggressive fish. And I'm certainly going to want you folks to participate in that. By the way, are there any ladies in the audience who keep large, aggressive fish? I just don't see it that often. It seems to be kind of a guy thing. I don't really see a lot of ladies, a lot of gals with big Dovii or Oscars sometimes, yeah, sometimes Oscars, but you don't see them with the the Jaguars and maybe a flower horn occasionally, but seems to be rare. But seems like it's more a guy thing to keep these big monsters. And I don't know. What do you think? Let's see here. Hey, Ronald in the house. Well, welcome, Ronald. Hey, Tracy. Good to see you. I hope all of you that won food in that food giveaway did finally get your food. It was a little delayed because I had some difficulty getting a hold of some padded envelopes, but I did get them, and along with some return address labels, so I wouldn't get a hand cramp writing return addresses. But I hope everybody did get their food. Some of you did reply and tell me that you did, and that's great. One person told me that they hadn't received the food yet, and they were not going to watch the channel anymore. Oh, a fair weather food fan. That's a fair weather food fan. At any rate, their food was mailed, and I hope they got it. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and do the AV on point. Thank you for that. That helps. Whip is working today as the moderator. I don't see any other. Are there any other mods in the house? We'll probably have Denny jump in. GP might stop by. All right. So let's go ahead and do the official start. What do you say? All right, now we're official. Okay, let's do a couple real quick shout outs, pay a few bills, and then we'll talk about keeping big fish. I also have a short first time ever preview of my talk with Corey inside his man cave, inside the laboratory. And so I'll play you a little clip of that. I've been working on that. Had so much content. It took so much time to edit. And I also have a short lap for you that I'll show you. Something just for the live stream. Don't think I'll release it as a standalone video. But let's go ahead and do a couple very quick shout outs. First one to my wonderful monthly Patreon supporters who help me in more ways than they know. Starts for as little as $3 a month. And it is just a great way to help the channel. YouTube keeps telling me that I need to get onto memberships. And I've always been kind of on the fence or reluctant about it. But I see the channels that do offer memberships and members-only content and all that sort of stuff. I notice that their channels don't seem to be suffering because of it. So YouTube keeps pushing it. We'll see. That might be an easier way for some of you instead of maybe the Patreon route, which requires you to go to Patreon or click. You can click the Patreon logo under the banner of my channel if you're on a PC or a laptop. So, but a big shout out to my wonderful Patreon monthly supporters. Also, a big shout out to my friends over at Aquarium Co-op, Corey, Zenzo, Candy, the group over there, Jimmy. Great team at Aquarium Co-op. I thank them for their ongoing support of the channel. And a very easy way to support the channel, if you're so inclined, is when you go to Amazon, use this link, amazon.com/shop/ben.o.cichlid. It will land you in my store. Whether you buy anything in the store or not, that's up to you. You then bounce out and do your Amazon shopping. And because you use that link to get to Amazon, the channel gets like a penny for every like $1,000 you spend. But it adds up. So definitely consider using my Amazon link. And a big shout out to Josh over at Cunningham Tropicals, who continues to offer 15% off on both fish and dry goods, like his great food. Just use ben.o.15 for 15% off at Cunningham Tropicals. Big shout out to Josh for his help of the channel. That little Malawi gar behind me is doing great, and that was from Josh. Also, if you want to pick up swag like this t-shirt, stuff like that, visit my Teespring store. Again, there's a link at the underneath at the bottom right of the banner. If you're watching on a PC, you can click on that link. It'll take you right to the Teespring store. There's mugs. There's sleeveless t-shirts. There's tees, t-shirts, and hoodies, all kinds of stuff there. All right. We will now proceed commercial free. And I do think that I should probably give a shout out to Darius at Northfin and Klaus over at Sarah. Those two gentlemen have been very, very kind to this channel, and they provide the samples that I give away to you when we do our little contests. So a big shout out to them too. Bewood 22. I really don't know. That's a good question. I imagine if it's an AI interactive, maybe you could tell it, go please, hey, Alexa, go to amazon.com/ben.ochart or /shop/ben, whatever the address is. /shop/ben.ochart. Maybe Alexa can do it verbally. I don't know. I don't know how AI your AI is, but yeah. So let's see here. There you go, Whip. If Whip can figure it out. Hey, Jim. Jim's Fish in the house. All right, more people are going on, are coming on. That's good. If you were on the food contest and received your food, tell me in the chat. Let me know. I'd love to hear that you got it. Hey, ZZip. Did I say hi to you, ZZip? Larry O'Brien in the house. All right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about big fish. And I mentioned, do any of you know of any ladies that keep massive, your Dovies, your Jaguars? I don't know of any. I used to watch a guy named Andy Wood. Are you folks familiar with Andy Wood? He used to have a channel over in the UK. Really, really cool guy. Was just all about the fish. Loved his fish. Every fish had a name. And he had a giant Midas. He had some really big fish. Really good guy. And I remember there was one of the first viral fish videos was a guy that used to go downstairs, and every day before work, he would get splashed by a big Dovii that he would go feed, and it would just get water all over him, and he would just laugh. And anyway, he filmed it a couple times, and he'd have to go change his shirt. And Romaine, hey Ben, I did receive my food. Thank you. Oh, good, excellent. It was just a big box of stuff. I actually did a video short on it. Just a big box of envelopes, and the post office, they're just slapping on labels and throwing them. A couple times he missed the box. I told him, I said, be sure those end up in your in your box. Anyway, good, very good. All right, DSGF, I got my food. Very good. Tracy got hers. Okay, so I don't know, this one person who contacted me and said they're not going to watch the channel anymore because they didn't get food. I guess that's that was maybe an oddball. He probably got the food like after he posted that, and maybe he felt a little bit silly. Ruben Rivera, Ben, is your son still? My son is in charge of batter development for the Boston Red Sox. Ruben. And so, yeah, he's still doing that. He hops between some of the affiliate teams, the Dominican Republic, and where they have a big facility, and of course, Fort Myers, which is where their big spring training facility is located. We're going to go visit them in Fort Myers in a few weeks, actually. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this. I think the big fish allure. I mean, some people, they don't want to keep like a community tank. They would rather have what some people call like a wet pet, and like something that they can have just a lot more like contact, like eye contact, physical contact. Some of these folks, when I went over to the Ohio Cichlid Association, a fellow had a fish there. I don't think it was a Midas. I think it was a what was that fish? But he was petting it. He would put a little protective cover on his finger and have it bite, and he would pull it out, out of the tank, and it was anyway, just a very cool fish. He'd pet its head, and this was definitely not a relationship that you would ever have with a rummy nose or a neon. Just would never exist. So he'd hand feed it, he'd pet it, he'd pull it out of the water, he'd play with it. Jerry was there. If Jerry comes on, he'll remember from if Jerry Martin shows up today. But I think some folks, they want more of a one-on-one relationship with their fish. In some cases, like almost happened with me in that red terror, a person buys a fish, the fish turns out to be a very aggressive fish, doesn't play nice, not good with tank mates. And then they decide, instead of rehoming the fish like I did with the red tear, they end up creating a one fish aquarium. Maybe attempting to breed them, but they they go and get, like in the case of Andy Wood, he had tanks that were 300 gallons with one big fish in them, just one big giant fish. But it was a wet pet. This is a fish he would have contact with, interact with, would follow him, he would follow him around, look him in the eye. This was not a rasbora. This was definitely a fish that was recognizing him and interacting with him, even beyond the usual, I'm excited because you're going to feed me. Which very often that's what you see. You see the food excitement in the fish. This was like an actual pet. And for some people, that's the kind of fish they want. Other folks don't want that. They want variety. They want plants. Like, for example, with that large fish, you could never have plants. He would completely destroy the scape of the aquarium. Even the red tear. Even the red tear would create bare spots. Half the tank was a bare bottom because he would just move and redecorate constantly. Which is how he was able to create the space underneath the divider. And that female got through, and then he killed that female that I had, which was just a real heartbreak. But, that happened. Whip, red devil. Yep, I think that's what it was. It was a red devil. That's right. You were there, my friend. You remember that fish. That fish was a special fish. And I think, if I remember the story correctly, he bought him at a like a little club when he was like a couple inches. I don't even think he was really sure what it was. And he was like a couple inches, just turned into this massive wet pet. So, yeah. Oh, okay. Awesome. So Whip knows it's not just a guy thing. And that's good. I like that. He says, June, only Oscars is a monster fish keeper, monster fish gal, Lori, and our very own Kendall. Very, very cool. Okay. Yeah, that's just something I was just wondering about. Kendall, wasn't he cool? Wasn't he a cool guy? Sometimes, excuse me, sometimes I'll be honest, I would have a little trouble with his heavy, he had a pretty heavy accent. And I have a difficulty with accents in general, which is why I watch any film I watch, like I like detective and murder mysteries that come out of the UK and Australia, but I always watch them with subtitles. But he was a really likable guy, and I don't know what happened. I think one of his big fish passed, and I think he was being trolled a little bit, and he made the mistake of trying to interact with the trolls and try and communicate. I think he just got kind of tired of it, I think. And I was picking some of that up towards the end. Kevin says, my 20-inch Dovii was the closest you could come to a pet dog. He was awesome and super smart. Yep. And if you watch, I'm sure you folks watch, and if you don't, you should, Cichlid Bros. Cichlid Bros. I think it was Troy who just picked up a Dovii, a wolf. I guess you call him a wolf. Is that also called a wolf? But boy, he was like a little kid in a candy store. opening up that box. And I think it was like a 4 or 5 inch Dovii, which is going to be so much more massive in a very short period of time. They grow like Oscars. Now, to get a perspective on fish, you think of a fish. Most fish keepers, especially those who keep like planted communities, they think about a 5 or 6 inch fish. And they go, "Wow, that's massive." The fish that I have in quarantine right now, the Venusis and the sand diver, they're about 6 inches, 5 6 inches. When I put them in this tank behind me, they're gonna look like little pygmy fish. They're gonna look like dwarfs, and and it'll give you a perspective of the size of the fish behind me, because it's easy to kind of lose. I see them every day. I don't really think about it, but I mean, they're probably 10, 11, maybe 12 inches, right? And you put a 5 or 6 inch fish that doesn't have the length, but also doesn't have the girth, doesn't have that thickness, and you'll really be able to tell the difference. That's right, Whip. We hung around. We got to go to OC. We got over to Ohio Fish Rescue. We got to see Brutus before his sad passing. That was really sad. The demise of Brutus. Tried to swallow a large pleco, and that was the end of Big Brutus. Kevin, do you have a channel? Do you post video of your Dovii? If you do, send me a link, ben.o.cichlid, ben.o.cichlid at Gmail. Love to see that Dovii. Now, is Fishberg, is that kind of a fish? Is a bicher, a Senegal bicher, is that an aggressive? I don't have no information about them. I see a big one swimming behind John over at KG and John Hudson. Are they aggressive? Is that an aggressive fish, or is that how do they? I mean, I see them with big Oscars, but if there were other types of fish in there, or a fish that could fit in its mouth, I mean, would it attack? Would it go after it? Just kind of curious. I mean, it definitely is a great looking fish. It looks like something out of a, one of those 10 million year ago movies, All right. Now tell me if you have had experience keeping, or hope to keep, or are currently keeping a monster fish. Tell me about it in the chat. Let's talk about it. Kendall, from what I've read, they are not aggressive, but they will eat anything that will fit in its mouth like any other fish will. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. But they will not, so from that, they will not go after a fish just for the sake of beating them up or over a territorial dispute like cichlids can do sometimes. Because I've thought about keeping one, not sure what tank I'd put them in, probably the 210-gallon South and Central American tank, but they do get pretty big. But they sure are cool, especially when they're swimming around. I agree with you, Whip. Oscars for me, and I went for many years being exclusively African cichlid. Oscars were not even on the radar. I almost thought of them as a sort of I don't know, a novelty fish, like the way I would consider maybe like a guppy or something, or a common goldfish. And And then I started to kind of go down the rabbit hole and look into what people were saying about him, and then ended up getting the red tiger, who I love the markings and color on him, and got the albino. Those were from the Cichlid Shack, James Largo, who unfortunately is no longer in business. But and I just love that Oscar. I'm looking at him right now. He is just such a beautiful fish, and interacts with me, and we'll definitely get into stare downs. Bee wood, I don't know. I just saw one of them swimming around. I can't even tell you if I saw the other one. The other one might have been just sitting at the back of the aquarium. Hello, Jody P. Kendall just got a biter. All right. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Interesting. Whip is suggesting a biter would go into the 300-gallon. That would be interesting to put one in there, maybe at about 4 or 5 inches, and see how he would do. Probably like the same water parameters. Yeah, and this is, what you're saying, Warren, is probably uh, the more common scenario in the fish keeping world is people saying, "Look, I just don't have the footprint. I don't have the real estate uh, for that, for the requirements of that tank," which is kind of a responsible way to look at it, instead of trying to put an Oscar in a 55, or a bicher in a 55, something like that. I mean, yeah, you've got to have the 200 plus gallons, and ideally the right amount of swim space, ideally 6 to 7 feet across. In the case of Andy, who I talked about earlier, I mean, he was 300, 400, 500. He had huge tanks, massive tanks. So yeah, that probably is what would probably keep more folks into a smaller type of fish. Ex-Collie never cared for the Oscars. Yeah, that is something that you got to like it. You got to be drawn to it. Now, I will say this: I decided to try Oscars and then fell in love with the Oscar. So maybe if you had an Oscar and got to know him, you might change your mind. But certainly that's your call. Ronald is going to be moving to PA. After I get settled, I'm going to get a 300-gallon and a tigerfish. Wow. Nice. Well, good luck with that move. And if you're moving fish, be sure to have some battery-powered air pumps. Make a big difference in moving those fish. My fish tanks aquatics in the house. B Wood. Now, she's not listening to the live stream, is she? So it's not going to get you in trouble if I read your comment? Now, when I was in California, I used to have to negotiate for tanks. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I would ask my wife, "Look, is there something that you would really like to have done?" And she would say, "Well, I'd love to have the living room painted." So I say, "Okay, how about if I paint the living room, but I put 100-gallon acrylic in this corner?" And we would go back and forth, and that's how I was able to have like five big tanks spread out throughout the whole house in California. So maybe you can negotiate. Ex-collie had an ornate bite you. Oh, nice. Fishberg, my nephew visited the fish room 2 years ago and now has 3 large cichlid tanks. He's on a well, so lots of water changes and lots of big fish, much like you. Wow, that's so cool. You know, that's how it happens. And every now and then I live like in a subdivision. There's a lot of kids. Every now and then I'll invite someone in to take a look at the tanks and get a little inspired. And there's a local homeschooler that's going to bring the kids here like a school trip where I can talk to them about taking care of fish. And that's how it gets started. They get inspired and then they start with a little bowl, and next thing you know they've got MTS. AJ, I have never seen an emperor cichlid in person. I have heard they're huge, and you seldom see them, right? But no, AJ, I have not seen one in person. Now, take it back. I mean, maybe there was one. I certainly didn't keep perfect track of what I saw at Ohio Fish Rescue, and they have just about every monster fish imaginable there. So maybe I have seen one, just didn't know it or don't remember it. Whip Swirl, my ornate bicher ate my Calvis, so I'm giving it to Lori, Monster Fish Gal, when I go to the Keystone Clash this year. Wow. Yep. They're going to do the rehome. And the thumbnail of today's live stream was based on, we used to have a 150, I think, 150-gallon acrylic in the bedroom in California, and sometimes at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, you'd hear some loud splashing, and the fish are going after each other in the dark, in the middle of the night. So don't think that turning the lights off is going to calm your cichlids down. If they want to get into it, they're going to get into it. But that was a question my wife asked me. She said, "What was all that splashing last night?" I'd say, "Well, they were getting into it with each other. They territorial or fighting." And her question was, "Why do you keep mean fish?" Oh. Honest question. Okay, yeah, the Emperor. Some say it's the largest. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if Ohio Fish Rescue has one of those. Dave Rice, thoughts on Higer lights? I just bought 248 to 54-inch high HG016 for my 400-gallon. I think they're great. I think Higer lights are one of their stronger products, and I would recommend them. I recommend the Aqua heaters. They're higher end heaters. I'm not recommending the other heaters because I've had a couple fail on me. I like their lights. I think they provide a very flattering spectrum of color, and they have enough features for the price point. I'm not recommending this wave maker anymore. I had one; it just started rattling like crazy and lost some of the blades. Had to replace it with a Cichlids. So they've got, it's kind of a mixed bag out of Higer, but I can say with a pretty high degree of certainty, I've never had a Higer light fail, and I like the way they make the fish look. And so I think you're going to be happy with them. I run mine on a timer. Well, here we go. Let's see. Ornates. So that type of biter, Whip is saying that they're silly aggressive from what I'm told. Just started keeping African species. Not an expert. And even within species, you get you do get a different personality. I mean, I've had different African cichlids. Like probably the first one that comes to mind are Venusus. I've had Venusus that were horrible, and I've had Venusus that were pretty mellow. Eye biters, I've had them go through long periods of being mellow, and then periods of just being complete jerks. So peacocks, I've had peacocks that are mellow, but very hard on each other. So in some cases. So again, you get different personalities. You might get an ornate biter that is chill, but you roll the dice. Dave, I was on the road for many years, which is when I was away from fish keeping. And I ended up turning over, because that's what we had to do it. I turned over the finances to my wife, and so she became the director of procurement. I never took them back after I came off the road. I just let her run with it and keep things. But anyway, with the help I get from the Patreons, the meager income I get from the YouTube channel, I have separate accounts, so I'm able to do things that are sort of off the radar, and also with the help of sponsors, right? So I'm able to maintain things without having her raise her eyebrow and go, like, if I told her that I had spent a couple $100 for a couple fish, between shipping and $75 a fish plus shipping, she would go, I'd get a very loud what? But it was never even on her radar, because it was done out of my private fish account. Kendall, I haven't had any problem with their air pumps. I have had several people tell me that their air pumps failed. I've also had people tell me that the co-op pumps have failed. I've had good luck with both of them, with the co-op lithium battery and the Higer ones. I've been running them for a few years. No problems. Now, always be sure to clean the intake. Your air pumps have intakes, and usually they have a little foam or fabric filter. Always be sure to, maybe you have to disassemble it, but always be sure to clean that filter maybe once a year, and your pumps will last longer. I'm looking at the chat. That's true, Whip. There are exceptions to the rule. Fish come with their own personalities. Yeah, Whip. I think it was from you that I heard that the Higer pumps were giving you a problem. So let's do this. I'm gonna play something for you, and this is just a preview of the upcoming visit to Corey's laboratory, and then I've got a lap of the fish room I want to play for you, exclusively for the live streamers. before I say that, hey, Angelo comes in with a super chat. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Very much appreciated. So let's do a preview of my visit to Corey's, not his shop, but his beautiful man cave. Let's take a look at that. So when I was in the Northwest, I decided to reach out to Corey, and he was gracious enough to accept my request to come up and pay him a visit. And so while up there, I rented a car and drove about an hour north to visit my friend Corey, who you might know, or maybe you don't know, but he owns Aquarium Co-op, who has a retail location, but also offers a lot of products through local fish stores and also ships directly to fish keepers all over America. So let's go visit Corey, visit his lab, his man cave north of Seattle, about an hour north. Hello, friends. I am here in what can only be described as a wonderful fish man cave with Corey, who you all know, right? Aquarium Co-op. And we're going to talk about all kinds of topics related to fish. After he gives me a little tour of this, this is not the shop. This is, what would you call it off the top of your head?
Now I'm calling it the studio again because I keep setting up little sets to shoot, but for the last 6 or 8 months it was the office because I was...
There you go. That's the preview. Just a short and sweet look at what's coming up, and we get into a whole variety of topics. I'm actually breaking sections out of it because it would have run like 2 hours. So I'm going to have a video on 3D backgrounds and a video on, there are 2 other topics that I'm working on, 3D backgrounds and how to set up a planted African cichlid tank. Some of the recommendations from Corey on how to set up a planted African cichlid tank. So those will be broken out. And you already saw the one installment where I talked with him. And so at the end of the day, and then I have the conversation with him where we're sitting on the couch. So there'll probably end up being like 4 episodes, 4 different episodes. There's just a lot of content. And so watch for that. And that should be coming up shortly. So on YouTube's recommendation, we're gonna drop an ad right here, and then I'm gonna play the lap of the fish room. Okay, let's do a lap of the fish room for specifically for today's live stream. You probably saw the aquarium spotlight video on the 55-gallon where I talked about what's going on with this aquarium, and it is just moving along, doing great. The fish look wonderful. Look at the blues on the bottom of this guy. Wow. Little melon. Very active. They're actually waiting for me to feed them. But this tank is coming along great. In that video on the spotlight, I talked a lot about how well this plant is doing in the heat. Seems to be very heat and algae tolerant, where the other plants are going through some struggles, and that will work itself out over time. Filtration, heating, everything else is going perfectly. Over here in the planted community tank, things are rock solid. This lily has gone insane. And the Otto is loving it. You see the little Otto on there? Spends all his time stuck to a stem. But I was so excited about one stem up. Now I've got 7 of them. There's the newest one right there. About to break the surface. The community fish are thriving in here. Plants, a lot of substrate, a lot of snails, baby plecos and cories. So it's a little ember tetras right there, little teeny little guys. Tons of these baby snails. You see one right there. That's a baby snail that will eventually turn into one of these beasts. Somebody asked me to cull them, get rid of them. I actually love them. I think they're very, very, very cool snails. Right next door in the 90, I have my little puppy dogs, redhead tapajos, doing phenomenally well. Some of them are just blowing up with great color. A lot of promise. 6 of them. Hopefully they'll all get along. Congos back there. Blue Congo tetras, always chasing each other around at the back of the aquarium. And of course I got my camera hog right here. This is my red spotted gold severum. Also got a electric blue Ochart in here. Buenos Aires tetras flying around. Love what I'm seeing with these redhead tapajos. Behind this aquarium I have hospital tanks, quarantine tanks, and what have you, and we're about a week and a half, 2 weeks away from being able to add this beautiful sand diver to the 300-gallon. He's a beautiful specimen. Love the way he looks. Very active, eating very well. I think he's big enough where he really can't fit anybody's mouth in that 300. So I think he'll be okay. He really is a unique species, so he's not going to really be a threat to anybody, I don't think. I mean, he'll get a usual African cichlid greeting when he's first put in. But like happened with the gar, it'll pass quickly. Hopefully. Here's the Venusis. I've got a hard cover on the top because I have a plastic humidity cover on this tank. So he could technically jump and just knock that to the side. So I put something heavy on the tank just to make sure he doesn't jump out. But what that does, of course, it makes the lighting unusual. Let me see if I can brighten it up a little bit. See him a little better. He's a great looking Venusis. A little hard to see in the light, but he's going to be beautiful in that 300. Also eating well, very active, good fin display. Interacts very well with me. Unlike the sand diver, he does have a few tank mates. He's got some plecos in here, sharing the tank with him. He also has some snails in here, and he's been leaving them both alone. Here's that 29-gallon that I'm using as a sort of a hospice retirement home for that AC Hecali, but it also has a lot of baby plecos in it. Looks like I startled them. We just stirred up a whole bunch of stuff, but this little hack I did on this filter is working really, really well. It's got I put that powerful magnet. Maybe you saw it. It's that video. Hey, Cichlids, I fixed it, and it talks about how I got this filter to really stick to the wall. You'll notice some of these hanging pieces of cucumber, and ZoomEd sells a little float. It comes with a little float, like a fishing float, and then a clip, and you can see the plecos work on them. I do it in the community tank too. You probably noticed it there. All right, let's go over here to the 300. Little hawk. These guys are looking for food. Little Taiwan reef. Beautiful little fish. One of the prettiest fish, I think, in the African cichlid world. Now, some of you remember when I first got this Fusco, how he was just kind of a brown and dull. And now he's got a lot of blue in the face. He's trying to look like a Nimbochromis with that pattern on his body. Strigatus, Energizer Bunny, Buccochromis noditania. Never stops. That's a beauty right there, huh? Buccochromis noditania. This is a Buccochromis rhodesii. He's the one that gets worked up sometimes. I think that's the long nose. Blue long nose. I got a big spot in here that is the deep water. There's also a big spot where there's the big spot. Big spot hap. Big coengi. And where's the trout? Hanging out in the back there, waiting for me to drop some food. There he is, a big torpedo. It's the 210. You can see they're all waiting for their morning feeding. Little Jack Dempsey. Look at that. They're all crowding over here. I think I'm going to drop some food into the tank. Come over here to this side. Big vieja. Talked about this vieja in a short clip that I provided to the Cichlid brothers. Cichlid bros. Troy asked me to talk about a fish. Talked a little bit about that vieja. Big tiger Oscar. Nicaragua. Chasing away the big Geo. Nobody messes with Sally the Salvini. Now, I don't know what happened because the It looks like this area here, the center part of the aquarium, was usually being controlled by the firemouth. You can see him there at the back. Now he seems to be hanging out more on the left side of the tank. So I don't know if somebody knocked him out of this area, but he used to defend that middle of the aquarium. Nobody could get in it. Yep, there you go. Looks like the Nicaragua's established dominance. So she took over this middle area, the lower part of the aquarium, because this was used to be only firemouth territory. There's that red shoulder severum. Very shy. A big geo. A lot of silver dollars in here. Beautiful electric blue Ochart. They're definitely the better looking of the two that I have. If you can see him beyond the photo bombing Oscars. There he is. It's like a bright light. Chocolates. A couple chocolates. Very unique coloration. Albino Oscar. There he is. I think he's a beautiful fish. The Oscar chasing the vieja around just to clear out the area in case I drop food in. So they're trying to open up some space so they have the first shot at food. Pretty common with cichlids. What's up, Sally? So there's your lap of the fish room. Full update, what's going on. Not a lot changed. Kind of the same old, same old. It'll be exciting when I get to add those new cichlids to the 300. And then I've got another cichlid that's going to be sent to me by a subscriber, Brandon. And that's going to be an autopharynx tetrastigma, which I've been wanting to get for quite a while. So that's going to be exciting. So stay tuned for that. These guys always follow me around. These are also like puppy dogs. All right. There's your lap of the fish room. You are caught up to what's going on in here. Hope you enjoyed that. And I've got your comments on the screen. And we can take a look at what you've got on your mind. Someone mentioned plecos. Little plecos will get eaten by bigger fish. And plecos don't necessarily predate on each other from what I can tell. But if a pleco dies, they get very quickly eaten by the other plecos. Anything that dies in the tank will get eaten quickly and turned into bones by plecos. Yeah, Cat Sailor, mine's Sally because it's a female. The females have the red belly. Not short for Salvatore, but yeah, Salvatore would be a great name for a male. I think the males are also pretty. They can get a little bit of red in the tummy, but not the way the females. Ron, you don't like fishing in the wind? I don't blame you. B Wood in the house. Yep, that's right. I'm glad to hear that. I'm anxious to get a hold of him. It's going to be probably just a few more weeks, and we'll go ahead and get that beautiful fish here, and then we'll put him in a month of, like I do normally. We'll put him in a month of quarantine, and then we'll go from there. But I'm excited. Been wanting to have one of those. That fish together with the Johnson eye The Johnson, I think, have some of the most beautiful finnage, especially the dorsal. The dorsal is just like exaggerated, like a sailfin, like a sailfin. Very, very pretty. Thank you, Cat Sailor. All right. Any questions for me? Be sure to start them with Ben.o.cichlid. Jared from Cali. Have you ever done a freshwater refugium? No, I haven't. Not something I've been into. Certainly something I wouldn't mind. I heard they are very, very good. And some old, some of the older, I've been doing a lot of looking into discus keeping, as you can imagine, right? And some of the older discus keeper videos out there will run big stumps with a refugium, and it looks like it would help. That would. It's just, I don't know, just not something. Not sure if it's a rabbit hole that I want to go down right now. Yes, that is a Portomelis. Mara Rocks is the collection point, and I think it's Spinolotus, but it is Mara Rocks. I think is the collection point for that fish, and it's a beauty. Picked him up from Snake. No, that wasn't Snake River. That was Fritz. Fritz over at Beantown Aquatics in Texas. I've been very lucky between Cunningham, Fritz, and Snake River. I've gotten some beautiful, beautiful specimens. Chef Steve in the house. Do you know where to get some fish-related posters? Ooh. I've got a real nice Sarah calendar right now hanging here in the fish room, but I don't know. I imagine if you went to Amazon, like they have some real nice, like the fish of Lake Malawi, they'll have like a poster with, 100 fish on it. There are things like that floating out there in the poster verse. But I imagine if you just went to Amazon and just did a general search. Otherwise, I wouldn't know. I've thought of using Teespring, of creating a calendar with some of my best shots from the last 10 years. I think that might be a popular item. Maybe I'll consider doing that for 2026. But off the top of my head, I would just say, just do a general search. On Amazon, or just in general, search on the internet. Whips World, I share your sentiment. I went to the wilds of British Columbia, on the shore, surrounded by bald eagles and wild salmon, and just had a wonderful time in a cabin. And everybody I ran into was super, super friendly up in Canada. When you look at what's going on with countries, this is not a political channel at all. But when you're getting the sound bites, and you're hearing about what's going on in Canada, Mexico, Russia, Ukraine, you're hearing a very a curated message that is in some cases has an agenda behind it. Then you go visit the country and you discover, it's just people just like us, just trying to get by, pay the bills, raise the kids, trying to eat right, trying to get by, and I've heard that from people that have been in Russia, Ukraine, into the heart of Mexico, into the Dominican Republic, and myself up in Canada. When I've gone to Mexico and I've gone to the Caribbean, it's just regular old folks, and realize that the news cycle is showing you a very thin slice that is nonsense, very often just nonsense, and it's clickbait. I don't care who you listen to, MSNBC, CNN, Fox. You're getting hit with clickbait all the time, when the real story is just regular old folks just trying to get by. And I loved Canada. Beantown Aquatics has some cool posters. Okay, there you go. Go check it out there. Brian Hahn comes in. Beantown Aquatics. Fritz is a great guy to work with. I will admit, on the scale of 1 to 10, Fritz is more 9 to 10 in communication. Snake River was more like an 8 or 7 in communication. And of course, Josh is a 10. I mean, him and I are over at Cunningham. We talk quite a bit. All right. It looks like we're on the hour already. Whip Swirl, Fritz. Is his first name Rob? People think he's that he's involved or part of Fritz Aquatics, but he's not. And it probably is Rob Fritz. But he is just a really good guy in communicating back and forth. He was very quick. One of the ways I judge online vendors is their response. And when you get sort of ghosted, it's never a good sign. Kendall thinks a calendar would be great. All right. Yeah, I think that might be a project. I'd probably have to start on it maybe like in October. And probably end up just giving it away, or maybe offering it over at Teespring or something. We'll see. That's the truth, AJ. That's the truth. That's been my experience. And the other side of it is true too. Every part of the world has its share of jerks too. You know. Yeah. I went to go visit my son and his wife. They're in San Francisco. And I asked him about, well, isn't it kind of dangerous there? Or, and he just goes, look, Dad, every city has spots that you don't go to. And we have spots here that you don't go to. But a lot of the city is absolutely beautiful and clean. And here in Nashville, there's parts of town you probably wouldn't want to go to after dark. And so, yeah, it's easy just to kind of classify an entire group or race or, it's just prejudiced thinking, right? Stereotypical thinking, when in fact you'll find that circumstances are very similar everywhere we go. Kendall G, I'm in western North Carolina near where the fires are. Oh, that's not good. But you were out of you were not hit by the hurricanes, obviously, or the tornadoes. It's been rough. Boy, the Carolinas have been really hit. I have some friends that were part of a volunteer group that went up to the Carolinas and were helping because the FEMA was doing nothing. Okay, enough of that. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. You are the best. You rock. I thank you all for supporting the channel by viewing, by subscribing, by giving it a thumbs up, by becoming Patreons and all that good stuff. Big shout out to my wonderful moderators and to my supporters of the channel. directly and indirectly. And with that being said, I think we'll go ahead and end off. And you folks enjoy your weekend. Have fun. And I will see you folks next week. Same time, same channel. And I think that's it for me. Goodbye, my friends. I'll see you next week.